Muted.
Panel out of the way here. So let's go over the basics first. We're here to go over the enhancement requests that are currently entered in the new enhancement request system on the Infor site. And now we're keeping this generic WMS because this is now the WMS SIG, no longer the TWL SIG. However, as far as I'm aware, TWL is the only application that we're able to submit enhancement requests for that are a warehouse management system for Infor. So we're talking about a subset, but I think you know, the idea here is we want to get this process put in place because this is how we not only submit enhancement requests, but we need to collectively agree on what should be the #1 priorities. And the old way of doing it, of waiting until we got together at Tug Connects or Inform or what have you, and sitting there with an Excel spreadsheet and people raising their hands and saying what they want to vote for and what they don't want to vote for, that's got to go away. So this is how we're going to do it going forward, unless we come up with a better way. So to
Andy?
get started, yes, sir.
This is David. I did just check, and SX.e/WMS, Infor's other warehouse management system, is also available on ERS. So if anyone is using SX.e/WMS, that product is available on the ERS system also. But again, unless we're licensed for it, we can't see those enhancements.
Gotcha. Okay. And I suppose the other thing is those are really just like drop-down menu options on there. So as soon as something is available, it's going to be a drop-down option on the site, and then you can start entering enhancement requests. I'm sure communication is going to come along with that. But I guess the story is you won't be able to do it until you can do it. So we can do it for 2 if you're licensed for either one of those apps. Okay. So I'm in the habit of going straight to the site because I've saved it, but you can get there from the Extreme site. So you'll log into Infor Extreme, and then under this Resources tab here, there's a link to the ERS. Now, I do believe it automatically logs you in. You used to have to log in before. I keep getting this error every time I come in. I'm not sure what that is. We'll ignore it for now. So this is the site that we're talking about here. And all the enhancement requests that folks have been submitting are all on this site. And what we're going to go through are those TWL enhancements that are on here. And the idea is we're going to talk through them briefly to make sure everyone understands the purpose of it, maybe give some comments, some feedback, but I'm not going to put your comments and feedback in here. You need to be logged in to do that yourself under your own company. So whether you agree to endorse this or acknowledge it or reject it, or you want to add some comments, you can either do that now while we're talking about it, or you can just take some notes and then come back in here later and do it. But I think what you'll see, besides the fact that we only have a few users submitting enhancement requests, we're not doing a good job of communicating to Infor what we like, don't like. We're just submitting them, and then no one's really voting on them or giving feedback. So that's what we're trying to accomplish here. Okay. So I'm going to filter to just the TWL enhancements, and I'm going to shore these up. Gary said that it's hard to see my screen. So let me know if it's too small to read. Someone just shout at me. Okay, so I assume it's okay then. All right, so my plan was to go through all of these, if we can, and just discuss them briefly, and then hopefully the next time we get together, we're just going to go through those that are new. Someone's got a question. Hold on one sec. Someone's raising their hand. Melody.
Yeah, Andy, it's me. I'm following along with you. And when I went to the product field and filtered by TWL Total Warehouse Logistics, I only get one thing there. And I have no other filters in place.
What else could be going on there? make sure you don't have, where's this guy? Scroll all the way down and make sure you have this voting status.
Okay, hold on. I went and opened it up again thinking I had something. All right.
For everyone that's on here, you can change the columns that are on here. Look at me, I changed them and then they didn't stay. And I wonder if that is a problem with the system and it doesn't stay. You have to do it each time, or if you can save it. But you can personalize the column. So Melody, what I'm wondering is if you have one of these hidden and it's filtered, perhaps to only the ones that you haven't voted on.
Personalization. Reset to default layout. I'm trying. I'll work on it.
Okay. All right. So for everyone else, you can customize these columns on here. And one of my comments back on the system was I can't filter out my own. So mine are permanently on here. And I can't get rid of them because I can't vote on them, but they're apparently working on something that is going to alter that. So your own will be on here for a little while. All right, let's just do these in created date order, if you guys are all right with that. And there's 29 of them, I believe. How do I put Melody's hand down? Lower Melody's hand. There we go. All right, if anyone else has a question or what have you, just shout out, or you can do the raise hand thing and I'll call you out. Okay. So let's dive into the first one so we can explain, you know, what goes into this and what this voting process is. So I'm going to go into 1053 here. And so this is who submitted it. This is for what application, what version, a description of the problem, if there's a workaround in place, and any proposed solution. So if you have any idea, hey, I think a good way to fix this would be X, Y, or Z, you're going to put that in there. So I wrote this one up and I said, you know, we would like full receipt capability. One of the cons that comes with TWL, once I put it in a second location and I ship a transfer to that location, I no longer have full receipt capability that I did in SX. So if I am replenishing a branch and I ship them 300 lines, they have to scan and receive each one of those 300 lines, and I just put a warehouse management system in my distribution center to guarantee I'm 99.99% accurate. So why would I want to double check myself on the receiving end? I just want to push a button, receive everything, and then go put it away because I didn't make any mistakes, right? So that's the explanation here. 99.9% accurate is what I said before. And the workaround right now is to not install TWL at the other locations, because this would be a huge step backwards. So my suggestion is to create a flag at the warehouse to allow full receiving from transfers shipped to or from this location. So again, trying to think of how to make it flexible. Right? Some people may want to do it, some people may not. Some people may want to do it at some locations and not at others. Some people may want to do it for most of the transfers, but not all of them. So maybe there's a flag on the transfer as well that's going to get tagged as a full receipt as an option from the warehouse setting, but you could always turn it back off if this transfer in particular you didn't want full receipt capability to be enabled. And some folks have the same desire on the PO side. So for me, it wasn't important on the transfer side, but I know for some other folks, they have really solid vendors, or they have agreements with their vendors that they can get. All they need to do is request credit or send them a notification that there was a mistake, and the vendor will get it taken care of, no questions asked. So they don't need to double check the vendor's work either. They just want a full receipt, the whole PO. right? So do the same thing on the PO side, right? So that's my proposed solution. And then what I'm looking for from all of you guys is to give me some feedback. You don't just necessarily have to do cheerleading. You can actually make comments to make changes to this or improvements, or you know what, you can't do this on the warehouse level. You have to do it on the vendor level because of X, Y, or Z. So looking for your comments. What'll work, what won't work, what can you think of that's better than what this person has suggested we do? And then you're going to do one of three things. These folks have commented and endorsed, but you're either going to endorse, reject, or acknowledge. So I think David has the best explanation of this and says, you know, if you want this, if you agree it should be in the product, you endorse it. If you don't care, if you read it and go, yeah, that's a good idea, but you know what, we don't do transfers and we don't have any vendors that we can trust that way, so I don't really care about this functionality, but it's not going to hurt anything. Go ahead and put it in if you want to. I'm going to acknowledge it if I don't like your idea, if it's going to break my processes, if it's going to ruin the way that we do business and you're not giving me any options to avoid the change that you're proposing, I'm going to reject it. And sometimes a rejection is just, you know what, we could do this, but you need to put some more thought in it to give me flexibility to avoid this, that, or the other. So I'm going to reject it until you make those changes, and then I can get on board with it. Or it can be a flat-out rejection. No, this is a terrible idea. We should never, ever, ever do this. Okay? So any feedback on that? Any questions? Was everyone able to, anyone that's doing this on the fly right now, able to get on and look at this and do it alongside me here? Looking for something from anyone.
Andy, this is Melody again. I think I've figured out that I can only see Horizon Solutions, and so can John Miller only see Horizon Solutions. So maybe there's something that if I use a filter, I can only see ours.
Okay, George, I see you got your hand up. 1 second, we'll get to you. Let's figure out this problem for.
Well, I just wonder if there are other people who have the same issue.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, this is George. I actually have the exact same issue. All I can see is the Horizon.
And you're not filtered by your company. Wait, you can only see Horizon. George,
Yeah.
You can only see Horizon, but you're not Horizon.
That's correct.
Okay, what are we doing here? And you have no other filters on. Let's go a different route. Take TWL out of there, and let's see what you get. Do you get more than Horizon now?
Mm-hmm.
There should be SX.enterprise. There should be enhancements to the enhancement request system. There should be all kinds of stuff in here.
Yeah, I see. I actually see 23 pages, or a total of 230, and you've got 354. Interesting.
Well, David, you mentioned something that I wasn't aware of. These are pre-filtered based on what you are licensed for?
Oh.
Yes. You can only see products that you're licensed for, and you can only vote on products that you're licensed for. So you have to have. I don't know what the
difference is, but.
Yeah. So are you all licensed for and currently using TWL?
Horizon is.
Flowworks is.
I don't know what that would be. This is you should be able to see everybody's that are there, and so you just actually enter a support request on Extreme, saying that you can only see your stuff, and they'll come back and help you work through that.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe there's like Mingle and Ion in here. If you don't have those products, that would be maybe 20 or 30 enhancements right there.
Right.
The TWL stuff, I do not get at all. If you have TWL, you should be seeing all these.
Right. Yeah, me neither. That just doesn't make sense at all, that you can see everybody else's stuff, but you can't see, everybody else's stuff if it's just TWL. That doesn't make sense. Make sure you filter on the correct one. If you go back to the filter, you were filtered at on product, not on product line or on title or anything like that.
You do SX. Oh. Oh no, I'm on the third page. Again, 29 is what you should have. At least 29 is what I think you should have, but who knows? Maybe I'm filtered, not seeing something. Does anyone have more than 29?
No, I'm seeing 29, Andy.
I'm also seeing 29 at school help.
I feel so left out.
All right, okay. Well, we can. Okay,
you can
Sharon.
read along and write down the ER numbers. So once Extreme gets you cleared up, then you can come back and vote.
Yeah. Created date is what we're filtering on. So once you have read it, you may have seen some of them were bright blue, like highlighted and bold. So those are unread, and then once you read it, it fades back like this. But then that doesn't necessarily mean you have voted on it. So again, these are mine, so I can't vote on them. They're always going to remain a no. But then anything else on here that says a no that's someone else's, that means I haven't done anything with. I've only voted on this one down here. Okay. All right. So if we're going to get through these, we're going to have to start zipping through. So I guess if you don't have access, just follow along here on screen, and Infor will get you squared away so you can get access to everything. But let's go on to the next one here. Okay, this is 1054. This is assigning a sort sequence to the pick waves. So create a parameter to allow pick waves to be sorted by a number of fields. Right now you can only sort in a couple ways, like sort by carrier or wave number or something like that. And we need a lot more flexibility in this area of the product. Right? So some folks will assign priorities, like these people are picking these types of truck routes, these people are picking UPS and FedEx orders. So we should be able to sort and filter based on that criteria. I think one of the big issues we're facing in every TWL implementation is, other warehouse management systems feed the users work based on rules that are in place. And ours, TWL, is you either manually one by one assign who's doing what work as it comes along, or it's a free-for-all. You throw everything out there and hope that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Okay. If anyone has any feedback or anything, I don't think we're going to go into too much explanation about this. We'll just go high level. And again, I want to learn from this meeting with all of you what we should be doing on subsequent calls, because you could all be doing this on your own. I could be doing this on my own, but as you can see, I only voted on one of these. Dedicating time, setting aside time to come here and read through these and then vote on them always gets pushed off to the last thing, and then it never happens, right? Let's move on to the next one. I'm not sure if these are going to go in date order if I hit next.
It should go in the order that you got them sorted. And I want to emphasize what Andy just said. Infor they'll put the resources in where people are asking for the enhancement. So if you don't, unfortunately, if you don't take the time to read them and you either endorse them, acknowledge them, or reject them, Infor is going to assume that there's no interest whatsoever, and it might be a great idea that just languishes because nobody took time to read it.
Right. And so we're all aware right now, for the most part, Infor is not doing anything with TW enhancements because they're doing the rewrite. So a whole bunch of these they just pushed off and they said, well, we're not even going to consider it right now because we're doing this rewrite, but then they would do that for everything. So the idea eventually would be they'll be looking at this same list and they'll be sorting it by how many people have endorsed it and saying, all right, if we're going to go through 10 of these enhancements this week to see what ones we should prioritize to do, it's going to be the ones with 46 endorsements, not the ones with 2 or 0, right? But they have agreed that they'll look through all of them, if I'm not mistaken, right, David?
Yes, they will look at all of them. You know, if you scroll down to the bottom, once they've been looked at, then Hannah Taylor actually does look at every one and make sure that, you know, if it's completely outside the scope, she'll go to Catherine, and Catherine will go back and say it's completely outside the scope of the product, for example, and then they'll just close it.
Right. And I didn't speak to Hannah about this, but I'm assuming they stopped tagging them deferred and rewrite in process because that would be all of them. So they're putting a little bit more thought behind, well, we're actually researching this one. Once we start doing enhancements again, then this is one that we'll think about doing. Okay.
Yes, there are actually, yeah, there are on, like on the SX.e side now, they're starting to take them. They've started changing those defers to, you know, on the roadmap for 11.1, that kind of thing.
Right on. Cool. Thanks, David. Okay, so 11.10, short pick functionality. There's what I would call a flaw in the process here. When we're out picking material and there's not enough on the shelf, we're supposed to have 10, and what do you know, there's only 9 on the shelf. We have a process in TWL. We short pick that. We say we're only picking 9. We send one to back order for that order. And we do something with that inventory. It's not here, so let's adjust it out, or let's make it unavailable, which is wonderful, right? The warehouse is handled. The problem is that inventory is still committed in SX.enterprise, and our adjustment, whether out of inventory or to unavailable, is bound to fail. It's a guaranteed failure. Not going to go through because that inventory is tied up on the SX side, and that just seems like an incomplete solution to make, right? You can't have a solution that is guaranteed to end with a system error, right? So this should be fixed, but it's not classified as a bug. So we need an enhancement to this, and we need some more functionality. So my proposed solution was, you know, to alter what happens when a short pick occurs, to allow it to go through, to possibly affect the line in SX.enterprise with a little bit more intelligence, but we need something better than hanging that adjustment in Willet, and that's the end of it. Okay. 11.09 is regarding replenishments. So if you have primary picking locations and you do replenishments to those primary picks, there are a couple flaws with that. I've outlined them here. Just this first one here does not update the replenishment quantity if activity keeps taking place. So at the time you hit your minimum, let's say in this example our bin holds 100 and our min is 10. When we hit 10, a replenishment is generated. You need to go get 90 of these. However, we keep picking for the next hour, and the guy finally accesses the replenishment request. It doesn't update to 95 to actually fill the bin. It's only what the quantity was at that time, right? So we're not actually filling the bin to its maximum capacity. Also, There's no replenishment generated when inventory is moved out for any other reason, including a stock adjustment. You're doing cycle counting, you have 11, and you find out there's only 10, you do an adjustment to take yourself down to 10, the replenishment is not generated. It's only when a pick occurs, right? So that's another area of improvement. And then there's a couple other reasons in here as well. You can read through this description on here. So there are a couple workarounds. You can manually generate replenishments. You can top off your bins. But they're all just additional steps, and they're steps that we shouldn't have to take. When the big focus in the warehouse is reducing the number of steps, whether that's key punches, scans, or actual footsteps, and we shouldn't have to take these steps. And so I've proposed some solutions in here, and it's been endorsed by a couple folks. I encourage you to look this one over. All right, let's keep trucking. Cycle counting improvements, just a general description, but I think while we're in here making improvements to cycle counts, we don't need 11 different enhancement requests. There needs to be a lot of work to cycle counts. There's a number of things that everyone runs into all the time. First and foremost being, there's no ability to have our counters just count and then our supervisor to go out there and do a count that does an adjustment. Those are separate steps, or you're stuck system-wide or warehouse-wide. All of your counting are adjustments, and we don't want just anyone out there counting and making stock adjustments. So there need to be security improvements to that part of it. And then, as you should all be very aware, there's not a really good process for counting your entire building wall to wall and doing ranked counting. So if you're doing ABC counting, I can't at the same time tell the system to automatically create shelf counts for me, right? And so some people agree with counting by how often the items are hit, but are concerned we're only counting stuff that TWL expects is going to be there, and we really need to count every bin in this warehouse to make sure that we find stuff that's gone missing, and TWL doesn't have a good way to automate multiple kinds of counts. It's either one or the other, right? Also, there's some smaller parts on there. TWL doesn't understand the value of any of the inventory because they're just units, right? They're just quantities associated with SKUs. SX holds all that information, but there are times we want flexibility. This isn't an A item, but it's $10,000, so I want to count it once a month. I can't do that in an automated fashion. I can manually say, hey, make sure you go count everything in the cage, or go count the expensive equipment once a month, and that's, again, a manual process. Is this working for everyone? Give me some feedback before we spend the next 28 minutes doing this. Are you getting something out of this, reading through these? I was looking for some people to perhaps interrupt me along the way, maybe throw in their 2 cents, or say, hey, you know what, we actually have a solid workaround for that, or this is a terrible idea because of X, Y, or Z.
Well, truthfully, this is Melody again. This is the first time I've seen all of these. I didn't realize they were out here, and I've logged an issue with Infor, but it's been valuable for me because it's the first time that I've seen the opportunity to vote on something like this. So it's helping me, but I have a specific issue. So.
Okay, George, did you have something else too?
Yeah, I mean, I actually like the format a lot, Andy. I think it's great. I guess I'm just going to mess everything up, though, and go back to the very first,
That's okay.
enhancement. The thing that's come up a bunch over recent years across a couple of clients has been the idea of treating one warehouse transfer to another warehouse transfer a little bit like an advanced shipping notice, an ASN. So if you are shipping from one TWL warehouse to another, you probably have that carton label on it, or if you palletize, you've got the pallet label on it. And in terms of being able to receipt in full, most clients, about 4 clients right now, have suggested just being able to scan that carton number would be good, because TWL should know and should know what was on that carton number way back at the shipping warehouse, and that would be a means to facilitate a receipt in full.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's perfect. So, George, what you would do is when you're endorsing this, acknowledging it or rejecting it, you would add your comments at that time and say, it'd be a great idea. We already have the carton information. We know what's in there. Why can't we just scan that thing, and poof, that's what makes it happen.
You bet. And actually, the only thing, and again, I'm kind of in the same boat as the Horizon lady, and I think it's probably because actually we split, her company and my company split licenses about 2 years ago, if I understood it right. But when towards the end, Andy, if you could maybe take the last 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and kind of walk us through how we would request or report a problem with the ERS here, because obviously I need to report a problem.
Unless I'm mistaken, and David's here to correct me when I'm wrong, this goes through your normal support process. So you'd go to Infor Extreme, you'd submit a ticket on there, just like something was broken in SX. This is an Infor product, so you submit a support request.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly correct. If you have an enhancement to the ERS system, you would submit your enhancement to the ERS system on the ERS system. And if it's not working as it should, then you do go to either, if you're dealing with a partner, you go to your partner to report the issue, or if you're dealing directly with Infor, you go to Infor Extreme to report your issue. Infor supported product.
So just to take a second, I've got Infor Extreme up. With the product line, do I just report it as SX.enterprise and then report it as a problem with ERS?
I wish I could help you with that. I work with a partner, so I report all of my issues to the partner, and then they plug them in, and I just get notified what they're working on. So I don't know how they plug them into Extreme.
Got it. Well,
yeah,
I guess I'll just blaze that trail.
Yeah, go for it. They'll sort it out, but it really shouldn't be SX, because this isn't just for SX.enterprise. So they've got to open it up to a whole than that. But maybe they haven't figured that out on the support side yet, how to do that. But David brought up an excellent point. So those are problems with this, like I can't see some data, or I'm clicking on endorse and it's not working. But if you have improvements to the enhancement request system, and I think there are probably more enhancement requests to the enhancement request system than there are for any of the products, other than SX.enterprise maybe. But all these enhancement requests are in here saying the enhancement request system would be a lot better if you could click on the back button and it would actually work. Or, I need to be able to delete all records. A lot of these are Infor folks in here testing stuff and making sure things are working properly. But yeah, if you have an improvement, if you're like, there should be another filter in here, blah, 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 that you would add an enhancement request to the enhancement request system. Okay, let's get back to TWL.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep, and then when I just look at, it turns out I can add, I do have access to add things, and this is an Infor Extreme product. They're responsible for it. So your issue, your incident that you create would be for Infor Extreme, and then you would specifically address the ERS system.
Gotcha. All right, thanks, David.
Sorry.
Okay, let's keep going. So this first time, we got to get through everything, and then the idea is the next time we get together, whether that's 2 months from now, 3 or 4 months from now, we're only going to go through what we didn't cover, or the idea was we would only go through what was new, but we might not get through everything today. So we'll just pick up where we left off. Okay, so 1104 here is enhancement request for tote and carton validation options. So right now there's half dozen or maybe even less options for how you want to require your carton and tote validation to work. You know, does it have to be a unique order number? Can it be, can you mix orders for the same customer as long as the same ship to and the same ship via, then it's okay. And we need more flexibility in here. I believe I have suggested one that is glaring oversight, and that is all orders, if they're going to the same address on a transfer, but not be okay with sales order. Right, so flexibility to distinguish between orders and transfers, or perhaps orders, transfers, and return POs. We need more flexibility there. It can't be a one option across all order types. Also, I think the other one that we run into all the time is it can only be order number and suffix, or the entire customer. And sometimes we have multiple back orders of the same order, and we'd like to package those together, and we can't. It's either one unique order and suffix or anything for the ship to or the customer. Okay. If you hear noise in the background, that is my dog snoring. It's ridiculous. 1105, unavailable statuses. I'm not sure if that's a word. It might be stat high. But we're stuck with these hard-coded unavailable reasons, right? And so we've been on SX.enterprise for 20 years, and we implement TWL, and we're told we can't use any of the unavailable reasons we've been using for the last 2 decades, and we have to convert over to TWL to be able to use it, which is complete nonsense. So we should have, essentially, just like we do for everything else, for our carriers in TWL, they're the ship vias in SX, SAS, TT. We should be able to populate our own table in TWL. It should not be hard-coded. That was an easy one. 1428, PO maintenance, like OE maintenance. Maybe this is entered improperly because this is really an SX.enterprise issue, but only if you have TWL. But for those of you, even if you're on the most current versions, if you go in to edit a sales order that's in process in TWL, we're in the middle of picking it, you can't make changes to the quantities to the lines, you can't cancel lines off, you can change costs, you can change some stuff on the header. It prevents you from doing anything that would conflict with what's happening in the warehouse. Not so on the PO side. We can go in there and delete lines from the PO while someone's in the middle of receiving that PO, and then the world falls apart. Right? So honor the same improvements that were made to OE maintenance into PO and WT as well. What am I thinking not including warehouse transfers in here? So someone vote on this, endorse it, acknowledge it, what have you, and make a comment. You know, we got to do this for warehouse transfer maintenance as well, please.
You can actually post your own comment right there up to post comments, Andy.
Well, I just wanted to see if someone would do it, you know. Are you,
okay.
Are you contributing? Should be for WT.
I'd be all over that, Andy. If I could see it. I can't even search for the number and see it.
Okay. I know you'll be on here as soon as you can, Melody. Alrighty.
What's interesting, Melody, is at one point in time you've seen these because I've seen your vote a couple times on a few of these. But
yeah,
you know,
so
it was back in like early on. Yeah.
Now, I think what may have happened is we upgraded to 10.2, and Infor has this weird way of handling TWL 10.2 because they don't really recognize it. It's weird when you get there. So I bet that's why.
You think you're somehow being filtered on the release? Like you can only see those that are for your, I mean, that's kind of silly, but maybe they made an error when programming this. Okay.
Yep.
All right, let's keep going. 1443. Poor word choice, probably shouldn't be increased, but we need more label size options. Right now, TWL has, you can print this size, or this size, and that's pretty much it. Well, what if I want 3-inch labels? What if I want 10-inch labels? You can't do any of that stuff, and the workaround is to, change the label size on the actual label file, and then the user has to know that 4x2 actually means 4x3, and 4x6 actually means 4x10, because we can't change what displays in the actual application. So some thought needs to go into this for sure to make it flexible enough for everyone's use, but I can tell you I've seen plenty of times that this just does not satisfy the needs for the typical distributor. $1,500 is Lori's. Finally, we're off me. Okay, great. Voiding shipped packages within integrated shipping system only unships orders in SX.e. Yes, it sure does. So if you void your package and you don't reship it the same day, you're in a bad spot.
Because everything's out of balance.
Yep. The order's completed in TWL, but it's not yet in SX. So it needs to be backed out completely of both systems.
Yeah, to me it makes absolutely no sense that, it would unship the order in one system and not the other.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Lori, I think
so
there
you know,
is a
Lori,
workaround.
Pardon me?
Yeah, just so you know, guys, Global Ship actually unships it in both. So
Really?
the logic is there.
Oh, I'll have to look into that because from what I just heard recently that Clipper Ship is being phased out, so maybe we'll start looking at Global Ship.
Yeah. In the meantime, if you've got something that was a big whoops and you want to make sure it doesn't get messed up, I believe the workaround for this is to unpick a line on the order. Nope, that's only, nope, it's shipped. You're not loading them, are you? They're
No,
going
we're
straight
not.
to shipped. Nope, I think you're totally ruined then.
Yeah, once it's shipped in TWL, that's it. You're done.
Yep. Okay. All right. Good one. Endorse. Horizon says...
Can I endorse my own?
I don't think so. Functionality exists in global?
Global Ship. When you void it in Global Ship, it voids it everywhere.
That's great, Melody. That's how it should be.
Yep.
Okay. And so you can see this is the first one that was submitted not by myself. So this is the voting piece is at the top here. And so my vote isn't permanent. So like before I said, I really don't like Lori's idea. It's going to ruin something for the way I do business. I'm going to reject it. Lori, you can't do this because it needs to do this, that, and the other. So if we can all agree on that, then I'll come back in here and I'll change my reject to an endorse. Or I can remove my vote entirely. Okay. All right, 1509. 0 received single line item transfer. Right now, you can't do that. There's just no functionality at all. If you got 5 lines, you can receive 4. Is there, can you even receive the other line? Who is this? Sharon. Sharon, are you able to talk? I don't think Sharon can talk because she was in a tornado.
Oh, now someone, you unmuted me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
This goes back probably 10 years. It was, I got volunteered to write it up, so I have to reread this.
I mean, maybe I'm missing something obvious, but I'm thinking about it right now. You can't you can't zero receive a line at all, can you? I mean, you can
Yes, you can.
receive
If
it
it's a
or you can
second
short
line,
receive it.
you cannot, you can zero receive. So you have line 1 and 2. You receive line 2. You don't receive line 1. They said they shipped it. Well, it fell off the back of the truck. You can let that happen.
You just don't do anything.
This fell off the back of the truck. You have to do a material move only if you're going to get it again.
All right,
And there's
so
nothing that goes with it.
between the blue and the red.
I gotcha. So yeah, the zero receive line, you just don't do anything to.
Transportation for.
Hey, Gary.
Yeah, sorry, Andy.
Thank you. So you just don't do anything for that line and zero receive, but if it's the only line, you can't close the RT without doing any receiving at all, so you're just kind of stuck. Perfect. Great.
Because
okay.
if it was one of those where the customer needed it today, and then they say, oh, you didn't get it because you told them, oh, I'll have it tomorrow from my other branch, then, you know, what if they cancel it with you? You don't need it at all now.
Yeah, but of course somebody's still going to have to deal with the product in transit. Either the shipping warehouse or the receiving warehouse is going to have, is going to have to deal with it because the shipping warehouse has already shipped it. So,
right.
The question is,
it needs to go into exception because then you can track your exceptions. Right now, you can't track it as it's never an exception.
Mm-hmm.
Right, just stays unreceived. Very good. Great. Okay. Thank you, Sharon. And this made me think. So everyone is aware when Sharon said 2 years ago. I think you meant to say 12 years ago. But the majority of these that are on here on the site came from the list of enhancements that this group has been asking for a long, long time. So we had Excel spreadsheets of a whole bunch of stuff, and I put all that stuff together. We did a survey a while back. What does everyone actually still care about? And everything that everyone voted on, and that's why so many of them are under me. I entered them all on the system here that I had in those lists, and then folks have started adding their own from that point on. So Sharon, I know this one's been around for a while, must not have made my list, so she has added it back on. But these are not new ideas. These are decade-old ideas for the most part.
Yes, you're correct. They're a decade old.
Okay. We can do a couple more here. I don't want to take more than an hour of anyone's time. I don't think I have more to give either. So let's do 1512 here from Sharon also. Where's the description? Pio Correction. So an impossibility at this point. Even if someone fat fingers, once the PO is closed, just like Lori's saying, once the order is shipped, you're done for. That's the same thing. And this is a step back. Once you put in TWL, you can't make changes to PO receipt once the trigger is pulled. Okay, so everyone that's on TWL, I'm sure, is fully aware of this, and you're very careful closing RTs to make sure everything is received correctly. You don't necessarily have to explain why you're endorsing this, but there is a star here. I'm pretty sure it's required. It is. So you got to say something. You know what? I'm not even going to do this now because we're going to have to come back and do more later. All right, 1513. Sharon again, thank you. WT receiving errors cannot be corrected once the WT is in receive stage. Same thing. PO corrections. WT. 1518. Move and resize columns in TWL online. I assume Infor didn't even say anything about this, but this is never going to get done because this is going to be a component of Web UI and just a natural ability in that application. So I don't think you'll ever see it GUI.
This was entered a long time ago before Web UI even came up. So yeah, That's what I'm hearing as well. With Web UI, we will have that capability.
Right on. Okay. 1510, TWL replenishment ad filter for available quantity to replenish. Okay, this is a good one because one could argue, you know, I have an enhancement request out there for a bunch of improvements to the replenishment functionality. Sharon could have added her stuff onto that, right? So when you go to submit an enhancement request and you put all this in here and you go to post it, it is first going to check and see if there's anything similar to your request. Hey, I found some keywords. There's some other enhancement requests that sound like they might be the same thing. Let's make sure you're not duplicating. Do you want to add on to someone else's enhancement request, or maybe two people are asking for the exact same thing? So
Andy,
I found that to be somewhat helpful.
Real quick, this does look very, very similar to something I put in the ERS system as well. I'm sure I've got something in there almost exactly like this.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how well that that functionality was working when you guys were first on here, you know, looking for similar enhancement requests. But I know the last couple I posted, it came up with 5 things right away. Hey, this sounds very similar to this. Let's make sure you're putting something unique on here. So just a heads up that that's part of the process there. Okay, but it's certainly not hurting anything. The idea is just we don't want 35 different enhancement requests saying the same thing. Infor will review them all and end up merging them. And then I think some of them say that, you know, you can link the enhancement requests together and you can say this has been merged with 1509 because it's closely related to it. Okay. This one, since I didn't even explain what Sharon's asking for, available quantity to replenish. So right now, if you go to manually replenish, right? Yep, if you're creating a manual replenishment, it looks like you have a whole bunch of stuff to replenish. And you create that entire, you bring up that entire list, and you're like, wow, we have 900 replenishments to do. I'm only going to select 50 of these. So you highlight the 50 that you think you can get done today, and then when you click Create Replenishments, well, you actually only have overstock for 3 of those parts, so it only creates 3 replenishments. So all it's telling you is your bin, your primary is low, but it's not taking into account that you actually have inventory to fill the primary. Right? Whoops. All right, let's do one more, and then we'll wrap up. Is this, Lori? Serial number details in TW Online.
Yes, within the item master, you know, in the serial number tab, there's no search options whatsoever. So if you're looking for data on a specific serial number, you have to scroll through hundreds and hundreds of them to find the one you're looking for.
So what are you looking for specifically? Like who picked this serial and when?
And for what order? Yep, because it does. Yep, and for what order? It does show that. It just it's very tedious having to scroll through them all. In SX.e, of course, ICSES, you have the option to put in the serial number, and boom, you know, there you go. Well, we don't have that in TWL.
Right. So is that your workaround? You look it up in ICSES and you see, oh, that was from March 3rd. And it's this order number, then you go into the item transactions, you scroll down to March 3rd, and you start looking through March 3rd orders, trying to find that order.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right, very good. Okay, so let's wrap it up here. I'm going to make a note, 15, well, we can't do by number because I sorted by date because it shows poorly. Where's our date? So we're at 6:30, and it's 15:07. Okay, so we'll pick up where we left off next time. We got pretty far, but this is basically what I'm picturing. Bummer that a couple people couldn't get on. Hopefully it wasn't the majority of people couldn't get on and see these. And what I'm hoping is as we're going through these and talking about them, you're either, maybe we're not spending enough time on them for you to think through enough whether you you like the idea or have suggestions on how to improve it, but maybe you're jotting down, oh, 1510, that sounded really good. When we're done here, I'm going to go back and look at these 6 enhancement requests because they sounded really interesting and would help my company. I'll go vote on those ones. The other ones I'm just going to, acknowledge because I don't really care about those. Okay, and then once you endorse, acknowledge, or reject, you can use this filter all the way here at the end, or I have it on the end anyway, that says you have not voted on it, and then you'll only see the enhancement requests remaining that you haven't voted on yet. Okay. All right. So it is 1 hour. Does anyone have any questions or comments? You can, of course, post on the Tug site any feedback about this. You can email me directly and say that was great, that was awful, let's never do that again, or I would get much more out of it if we did this, that, or the other next time. Or just shout out something right now, otherwise I think we're gonna shut it down and let everyone go. Anybody? Okay.
That was great.
All right.
Yeah, I think this worked out well, Andy. I found it beneficial for us, as a group to kind of go through them.
I agree, because what you read on there doesn't always make sense, especially if the person's online, then you're understanding where they're coming from on what's going on.
Right. So maybe we go a little bit slower next time and talk through some of these. I know I was going really quick, and maybe I explained it in a way where it made sense to me, but you still have no idea what that meant. We can go a little bit slower, and then we can have more Q&A to say, I don't really get what the problem is. Can you explain it? We could certainly do that if you guys want to slow down next time.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
All right.
I like.
Well, thank you all very much. Please get on here. You can certainly jump ahead. You don't need to wait until we do this again. Get on here, look at these, vote, endorse, reject, acknowledge, add your comments, create your own enhancement requests, put them out there, because we're not going to do it when we get together. This is the format. It needs to go on this site. Okay. All right. Thank you all very much. I will see you later. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, thanks, guys.